This is episode 14 of Hoops Forum, a joint effort of Radius Athletics and a Quick Timeout podcast. I'm Tony Miller. He's Randy Sherman, and we're excited to talk some more hoops with you this week. But before we get any further, I want to thank our sponsors over at 323 Sports. Camp season is coming faster than I think what most of us are anticipating. I was just talking about this with a coach of ours yesterday. You run a camp, you're probably going to have camp t-shirts, and right now 323 is offering a moisture management one color print tee for $6.99 a piece. You can learn more about that incredible deal at 323sports.com, or you can email a rep sales at 323sports.com. They'll be sure to do it right for your sports program. By the way, Randy, I know you're not into the camp scene anymore, but man, our numbers are like blowing through the roof. We're still like a month out, and I think a camp that we usually have like 90 to 100, we're already up to like 125, and that's anticipating.
Well, that's good.
Like
There's some pent up demand to get these kids out of the house and playing basketball and doing something. So that's good.
Yeah, excited about it. So talking about last week now, because that's kind of a jumping off point for this week. We talked primarily kind of self-scouting and encourage coaches. Just quick summary. The first one, like, who are we? Ask yourselves, who are we? Second question, like, what are our numbers? Digging into the numbers, whether those are just stats, a little bit more advanced stats. And the last one there, what do we need to cut? Got a lot of great response from each of those. The audio version, planning on that being released tomorrow. So if you're interested in listening to that sometime over the weekend. And then Randy also has that on his YouTube page. I just saw him link that yesterday. So be sure to check that out as well. Today, like a little bit more self-scouting, but a different topic. Randy, can you kind of talk, maybe just kind of like lay the groundwork for where we're trying to go here over the next 30 minutes or so?
Yeah, I think what we want to dig a little bit deeper into the part of looking back at our performances using game footage. Using our video that we have access to, and arriving at a way to sort of break it down and assess our performance that's very specific to the things we do, the style of play we teach. So that's what we're going to talk about today, is just sort of like how like watching video of your own team and how to sort of go about that and organize your thoughts when you watch your team and what you're looking for, what you're grading, all those things.
Admittedly, oddly enough, like I don't watch like large chunks of game film. I have some coaches that say to me like, man, I watched all of our possessions this last year, and I don't know if I watch a lot of, if you follow me on Twitter, like I'm watching live games and breaking down plays or looking at things and that sort of thing. But this is actually one thing that I'm trying to do better. And maybe we can address that later on. I don't know that watching 300 hours of every single possession necessarily, it's kind of more of our last week. More is not always better. Maybe looking at being smart about what you look at. Maybe. So with that in mind, you do this with your ramp coaches. Like, what's the process that you all follow?
Yeah. So what I encouraged them to do would be to sort of like, obviously with the tools people have now, Synergy, Huddle, all that makes this a lot easier. Like if I want to watch all my made 3-pointers, I can just click on that and they populate and I'll watch them back to back to back. Or all my opponents made layups or 2-pointers or shots in the paint or whatever. I can watch all that easily. So what I encouraged coaches to do is sort of, as you're watching your performances, create some categories and they may be homemade categories. They may be just standard categories like, transition points or, something like that. But they may be very specific and homemade categories to your team. Like I'm watching our games and I want to, throughout our 30 games or however many we played, when we ran this specific, I don't know, for example, like we ran this specific baseline out of bounds play 27 times. We scored on it this amount for a points per possession of whatever, just to sort of get into really homemade statistical categories for your program to assess like what's working, what didn't really, that didn't really bear fruit like I wanted it to. It's all just information gathering to help us decide what to do more of than what to do less of, or what to go big on, like, or what to just, that, why'd I even bother with that? Get that out of here, right? And so that's really what I'm talking about. But I really challenge them to make it very specific, like not just oh yeah, on all our 3-point attempts, we were 1.01 points per shot. Okay, let's dig deeper into just that. Like, what about your 3-point attempts coming off a down screen? What about your 3-point attempts coming off of an inside-out driving kick? What about your 3-point attempts on the first side? Or what about, just a perimeter-to-perimeter pass? Like, dig deeper into those, and that will help you discern what's, like, they're not all created equal. What's optimal? What's really working best for us, and help you decide the formulation of your teams and strategies going forward.
Is there anything that you would suggest that people avoid when watching game film? We talked about just like watching maybe too much or just watching random. Is there anything else maybe in particular, like pitfalls, just so that you're not wasting time on things that don't matter?
I mean, you could probably zoom through free throws, right? Like that's pretty, if you're watching your game film front to back the old fashioned way, just that performance is pretty black and white, right? We got to the line, we shot, we missed, or we made it. We're not opposed. We're unguarded when we're shooting a free throw. So I'd say that's one thing. Like, don't fixate too much on that. It doesn't mean if it's a problem area, don't address it. It just means, like, why do I need to, watch our free throws to see, what the problem is? I'd say that's the main one that's really not maybe fitting with this project, if you will.
How much of it should be, like, how long should this go on? I mean, should it be something where, again, we just more at some point? Are you like, all right, we need to actually make some adjustments?
I'm
talking about making adjustments, like, okay, we need to start planning now for the next thing or for the next year, rather than just continuing to watch. I have a lot of guys that just watch a lot of film. I have players that watch a lot of film. We can kind of transition to that in a moment. But, I have a lot of people that tell me I watch a lot of film, and I'm thinking, I'm not sure what it's helping you do because I don't see any improvement anywhere.
Yeah. No, that to me, I always want an action plan if I'm going to spend some time on something. So I would say the first time maybe a coach digs into this endeavor, do it pretty thorough. And it might take you some days, but you don't have to do it all in one day. Just watch a game or two a day. Make your rubric for what I'm looking for, and what we want to assess and unpack. Again, I might do 1 or 2 games a day. We got the whole summer and things like that to before we, really reconvene and practice. But but like, maybe after I've done this once really thoroughly, I kind of get it, right? I'm going to learn from that, and I may not do it as thoroughly in the subsequent years, but some coaches just may want to do it that thoroughly every year. I always think, like, hey, if you're actually an employed coach, right? Like, you're not, like, I'm not, you are, like, I guess I could spend a lot of time watching the Celtics but like, this is the team you work for, right? Like that's the team I want to watch and know and help and repair, and that's what I want to be an expert in. So,
how do you, because a lot of these coaches will then take that and then show either clips to individual players, or maybe they just tell them, like, you need to, I've heard these in postseason because we're in the postseason evaluation. I've heard coaches say to players, like, you need to watch more film. And I don't know what it is because of a kid's background, what they just heard, like what that means to them. So if you could you just talked about, like, action steps for a coach. What are the action steps for communicating to our players? This is how you should watch film. This will actually help you improve as a player.
Yeah. To me, what I would say would be to sort of start with the good. Like, don't just, hey, here's all these terrible possessions you had last year. Watch these. And, like, a player is neither all good nor all bad, right? So, like, try to find a balance there of, like, hey, here's the things you do well. Do more of those things, and make an edit, make a, playlist, or whatever the term for whatever software you're using to do this would be. things you do well. Like when you do these things, this is when I'm where you're kind of doing what we need to see more of.
Mm-hmm.
But here's some things that, like, you know, this is a bad decision. This is a, you know, look how it goes against what we're teaching and things like that. So that'd be my first piece of advice, is just no player is all good nor all bad. So balance it out. Second, you know, players want to be a part of the team, and they want to, you know, they want the team to play well, but they also have their own goals in mind. So use the film to help with goal setting. Like, if, you know, here's you know, what's it sort of looking like for you, coach, our player, is, you know, you're taking about 5 really good shots a game and like 3 kind of bad ones. Let's see if we can get that, you know. So make the improvement plan specific to them and specific to what you want to see them do more of and less of.
Yeah. Well, you know, we've done some things with Huddle, and those of you that have Huddle, you know this, but if you dig a little bit deeper, you can actually, per player, what you were talking about earlier, break down, what am I looking at? I want to look at my turnovers. And to your point that you've made several times, like how is that player committing those turnovers? So they can check that out for themselves. Like,
Yeah.
where am I getting my shots? Well, then this offseason, I should then practice in those spots that I'm getting my shots. And, you know, that it makes it's almost too simple nowadays, because you don't just give a kid, like, go watch, I played in that last game, go watch your last game against, you know, Florida. Like, you can break down literally what within that. And that goes to our bigger point of, like, what matters to winning to your team, for what are you emphasizing? Those are the kinds of things, the clips that then I should be watching. How am I doing shooting off the dribble? How am I doing in my catch and shoot? How am I doing in my turnovers and my assists and my whatever it is? So I mean, it's super simple nowadays to do that. Before we go on, I want to take a quick break, tell you about our sponsors, Sideline Athletics. Talking numbers here a little bit, but Sideline Interactive is the leading manufacturer of scoring tables and video display boards for high schools and colleges around the country. With their technology, you have the capability to increase your school's revenue, improve fan experience, and improve the look of your gym. To find out more about Sideline Interactive, visit sidelineinteractive.com. Okay, so to this point, we've primarily focused on your own team. Do you encourage coaches to watch other teams?
Yeah. So this project that I would say is twofold. We're watching but you know, we're assessing our defense, right? Like we're also assessing our defense. So in a roundabout way, we're watching the other team. Like, what are we having trouble defending? If it, you know, what are we, you know, our opponents, when they come off the screen, are shooting whatever percentage or something like that. Like, so I can know we're defending that well or not. So basically you are watching in other teams that you played against, in that you're watching your defense, and vice versa. You're watching how your offense did against certain defenses. Like, you could break down some of these assessments, man or zone. You could. So you're learning from your opponents and their strategies at the same time you're assessing your own. So yes.
What are you looking at? And again, different because you're not coaching right now, but you know, what are you looking at this offseason? I think I saw you a little bit more conceptual based offenses, but something popular this year. Like, what are you watching this summer?
Yeah, I think for me, I'm watching a lot of 5 out, just seeing what different I don't know, just different styles of 5 out, and maybe finding some commonalities among some teams that play that way, and sort of repackaging in with some of my own thoughts. I've done some projects in years past with a lot of 5 out, and sort of revisiting those, because some of them were a little bit I don't know, maybe ahead of their time, like things that that several years ago I did some interesting stuff on 5 out, and kind of didn't. It was just sort of like a little kernel of a thought in my brain, and then I put it on a shelf, and now it's like I'm seeing a lot of teams sort of use some of the things that I was like picking up on, and not because they saw my work, but just that's just sort of where basketball went. And like, I'm revisiting that stuff and sort of thinking through how I'd like to organize that. So
I've got something. I looked it up here. Fast model. You've got something from 2015. So quite ahead of your time with some 5-out. It was mostly motion offense, but I mean, you within the article talked a little bit about 5-out.
Yeah, and there was a project I did a few years ago that I called Molecules, which I don't know if that made it out past my membership group, but where that was a 5-out style of sort of like an early offense package, and I made like basically a chemistry analogy with it, in that, like, you got the periodic table of elements, and all of everything in the world is made up of those things on that nitrogen, oxygen, whatever. I'm not a chemistry person, but as you can tell, but like everything comes down to the things on that periodic table. Just like in all of basketball, everything is either a handoff, a screen, a ball screen, an off-ball screen. So I sort of gave all those actions like quick, punchy names, and how we can kind of put 2 or 3 of them together to create a combination of actions that's almost like a molecule. Like when you put together, 2 hydrogens, 1 oxygen, you get water. When you put together a handoff ball screen, you get pistol. So that was the analogy. And now when I watch the NBA play, that's kind of what I see. They come down in 5-out and they hand it off, and the guy cleans it up with a screen. They're just looking to punch the paint, get a help, and then they play. Advantage-based basketball from then they're out.
That the shameless plug here, but I had just a few weeks ago, somebody emailed me and said, "Hey, do you have anything small-sided games for more ball screen type stuff?" Which is, we know, beyond the ball screen, also the handoffs and screen aways and that kind of thing too. But so we do have I have a small-sided game for ball screen stuff, and that's something that I want to do a little bit more of. I had the privilege yesterday to talk for quite a while to Coach Matt Driscoll down at North Florida, and they're more conceptual offense. I know a lot of our viewers and listeners are doing more conceptual offense, and ours primarily is probably more like Princeton-like, where it's a lot more passing and cutting, and they're primarily more ball screen stuff. And I think it kind of combines a lot of the 5-out principles. And so I'm looking for ways this offseason to kind of integrate more ball screens. We did it with our team this year, but it was more of like, all right, the conceptual is not working. We have a bounce out or whatever. And so now we're going to come screen the ball. But like coming down into that, and what you were just talking about, like connecting it to parts that we're already doing, and how can we create those screens, and then obviously then create advantages, a lot of what we talked about in the past. So that's one team that if you're interested in finding out a little bit more about conceptual offense, but then doing a little bit more ball screen, I'll be watching this summer, at least some North Florida basketball. So he was telling me yesterday, I think it was this year or last year, they were at 1.17 points per possession. Gonzaga was the number 1 team in the country at 1.19.
Oh, wow.
It was crazy. So that was kind of all I needed to.
Yeah, you check them out.
Yeah, so definitely check that up. Before we wrap things up, I had one more thing. I wanted to get your opinion on this. It's not directly related to scouting, but it's tied to this bigger picture of like watching film, and then also like this offseason, what should we do to improve? It was a younger coach, and he's an assistant, so he doesn't have his own team. He said, I want to be forming right now my style of play, but there's so much out there. We've talked a lot about that. I mean, the virtual clinics are starting back up again, so now you get opportunity to watch all kinds of things and add to your notebooks. And B, he doesn't have his own team, so you don't necessarily know what your personnel is. What suggestions would you give to that young man about where he should put his attention right now? Beyond like put your attention in your own team and preparing for as your head coach. I think this is kind of like his side efforts. Like what should he be doing right now to kind of formulate what he's wanting to do maybe once he becomes a head coach?
Well, first, let me applaud the young man, whoever maybe he's watching or maybe will later. I would say that I like where his head is. He's thinking about his future and his opportunity in the profession when it comes. I always tell coaches, be ready so you don't have to get ready, right? Like, so don't like wander around as an assistant and then all of a sudden your phone rings and you want to be a head coach and someone wants to hire you and like, oh, I don't have my philosophy ready. I don't have my, playbook kind of to show the interview committee or what. Like, be ready so you don't have to get ready. So I applaud where his head is there. I think where he's at right now is a space where he's got the freedom to kind of think perfect world, think like if I could do what I wanted with my opportunity that I get as a head coach, just anything I wanted. That's where I would start is have that in mind, and you can always taper it back or adjust it as you need. So I would say begin with what you like, what you're interested in, and think. Don't, like, right now would not be the time to be thinking about specific players. Just think about, what does this coach, what do I like in this sport? Mm-hmm. And if there's something, I always say basketball is a broad enough subject where it's like, there's like if you analogize it to a university, there's all kinds of things that you can study at a university, but to graduate, you got to pick a major, mm-hmm. right? So, right now he's sort of like, it sounds like he's just consuming a lot. He's like in that, first freshman and sophomore year of coursework where he's just taking a lot in. But by junior or senior year in college, you got to kind of major in biology or math or teaching education or something to get out the door. So I would say that right now, do your undergraduate work, but be thinking about, when my opportunity comes, what do I want to major in? Mm-hmm. What do I want to be? Like, I want to be a great 5-out coach or something, like a dribble drive coach or motion offense coach or whatever. That's probably where his next steps would be to maybe all that, like, answer that question and then begin to focus your studies, just like you did in university. Focus your studies into that, to where you start to become a bit of an expert, an educated expert in a particular field.
I feel like this is the case. You tell me whether or not I'm right about it or not. But like people sometimes, I get the sense, are putting too much into that's my personnel. And when I hear them talk about personnel, it's like, well, I have this year, I have this player coming in, and they're looking to revamp their entire offense just to fit that the personnel that they think they have that year. And then the next year they have a different personnel, and it's like, we're revamping things again, and you lack continuity and you never get great at anything because you're constantly changing because of your personnel. Do you ever see that?
Yes. All the time. This is pretty much my whole business models based on this, is because I do think most coaches are very pragmatic about this, what we're talking about. They have this, but I would say that they maybe view what you run and the things you do as the malleable product. We can run this, where I view the player's skills and talents as the malleable product. So if I have a program, I can teach certain things to give our players the skill to run what we want to run. The problem with that is some coaches in there, wherever their coaching situation, just don't have enough time. They don't have the gym year round or whatever their rules. I get it. I really do. I just always encourage them to not see your players' current abilities as their permanent abilities. A great book on this about fixed mindset versus growth mindset. A lot of coaches will like tweet that out. I love growth mindset. Yeah. And then, like, we got to run this because my players can't do that. That's not a growth mindset. We're running something that's just beyond our players' current capabilities. Like that's coaching. You do the coaching part. Mm-hmm. Your players are here. Where they need to be is here. The space in between is the coaching part. That's your job. Mm-hmm. So, I have this conversation a lot. Now, I would add, there's a difference between sort of like accentuating or maximizing and modifying. So, like, if I had high school Shaq, and maybe I was a 5-out coach, but then all of a sudden high school Shaq comes to my program, we're probably going to run some post up.
Sure.
So I'm accentuating, I'm maximizing. What I'm not a big fan of is like, I like your 5-out coach, but I got 3 guys who can't shoot. And so how would you modify? No, we're not going to talk about that. We're going to talk about, why do you have 3 guys that can't shoot? Why have they graduated? Why have they made it through all the gateways in your program? and don't have this fundamental skill that's necessary to play basketball. That's we're going to fix the problem that caused the problem. That's the subtle difference. Like if I had Allen Iverson, like we're going to freaking spread the court and go, you know, like that's maximizing. I might change for something like that. If I had high school Shaq, yeah, we're going to go back to 4 out, 1 in and post him up. Duh. I'm not dumb, you know, like, but that's maximizing, accentuating. What I'm not a big fan of is like, all right, well, because this is a syllogism I just can't get past. If my players are bad and I tailor my offense to fit my players, then what is our offense?
Bad offense. Yeah.
I just can't get past that. Like I've all through I've coached, all through this experience I've done helping coaches, like that's just like I'll modify something for a talent, a plus skill, but like, yeah, we'll change, but like we got to get better.
Yeah. Yeah. I would say minor adjustments within the system, major adjustments within your player's skill set. That's probably the philosophy. And too many times it's flip-flopped. It's major changes in my system, minor changes in my player development, and we end up with the same results.
Yeah.
You're like almost chasing something that you're never going to catch.
Yeah, it's just something else. It's not something better.
Yeah. Yeah. And we've talked about that on previous episodes. And so if you haven't listened to our previous episodes, I couldn't believe when I typed it out, we're 14 episodes in already to this. So
time flies when you're having fun, man.
Yeah, that's a whole summer's worth of Hoops Form. So even if you've listened to all of these, you can go back this summer and listen to them once again. Hopefully find some good things out of it. Appreciate all those who joined us this week. If you missed any part of the live show, you can go back and watch this on a replay on the Radius Athletics YouTube page. Be sure to check those out. I've been seeing the numbers for that kind of go up, and people are finding that. So hopefully more of you will find that. And if you want the audio version, listen to it on the go. Just search a Quick Timeout Podcast and you'll find all of our shows there. Appreciate Randy Sherman jumping on the show with me again today. We are planning to be back this next week and periodically throughout the summer as well. So hopefully you'll join us and maybe we can get some more interaction and hopefully can continue to help each other share the game and grow the game. Thanks so much for listening. Talk to you guys next week.
Thank you.